Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of the JDS Review. Now you're wondering, why is this a special edition of the JDS Review? Because this is going to be my first ever post-stroke full video commentary. Now for those of you who know me offline, y'all know what happened to me, but for those of you who are watching for the first time and don't know me from Adam, back in August of 2021, I suffered a debilitating stroke, which left me both paralyzed and disabled and out of work. And so I renewed my desire to want to be a YouTuber, making videos like this. And this upcoming April will make it my wife and I's 6-year anniversary that we have been Wyndham Timeshare vacation owners. And today I'm going to be doing a review of what our experience has been like being timeshare owners, why we became Wyndham Timeshare owners, and what you can expect if you ever become a Wyndham Timeshare owner yourself. But also in this video, I'm going to explain what a timeshare is, what a timeshare is not. So this will be almost like a timeshares 101 presentation, and I hope that it will educate you on this subject. I will give you the gist of timeshare ownership through Wyndham, the pros and cons of being a timeshare owner, and some of the pitfalls to avoid if you're ever stuck in a timeshare sales presentation. And is it worth the cost for the money that you spend to get it? I'll explain this and much more in this review. Now timeshares, they seem almost too good to be true. Own a piece of vacation heaven, or a guaranteed yearly or frequent vacation getaway at what appears to be a very affordable price. However, when you take a closer look at timeshares, they might not seem as to what they appear. Now, for people who are not familiar with what timeshares are, you're probably wondering, just what is a timeshare? Well, this is the Easter's dictionary definition of a timeshare. It's defined as a, quote, an agreement or arrangement in which parties share the ownership or right to use property, such as a resort condominium, that provides occupation by each party, especially for periods of less than 1 year. Now, when you take a closer look at timeshares, you may discover a slew of problems. For example, my wife and I got married in the summer of 2005, and when we went on our honeymoon, I had purchased what I thought was a deeply discounted vacation package through Ramada, in which we got hotel stays in Fort Lauderdale, Las Vegas, and even a cruise to the Bahamas. But we had to agree to go on a vacation ownership presentation, which I had no idea what that was about. So when we were on our honeymoon, we had to drive from Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach, Florida, which is maybe about an hour and a half north. And when we were on there, we got to see this very beautiful vacation. Now, I'm going to attempt to show photos of this resort on the screen behind me, or on the full-time screen that you see. However, I had problems with my computer, and I had to ship my computer in for repairs. And in the process, my entire computer was wiped clean, including my program. So I didn't have access to the same program at the recording of this video, and I'm waiting for it to come in. So I will attempt to try to edit and put videos. Now, if you see any photos of this resort, these were not my own photos that I took, because back then I owned neither a smartphone or a digital camera. Instead, I had to have one of those cheap wind-up cameras it was those disposable cameras. And so the photos that I'm going to attempt to show are actually photos from off of Google Maps of the resort that I created as a slideshow so that you could see what we saw at the time. And this way, I recreated a slideshow with these photos from Google Maps so that I can create a photo slideshow so that I can have memories of this vacation, of seeing this tour, so that I can better explain it, and then it'll also help with my memory being a stroke survivor. Now, we did an extensive tour of the facility, which probably lasted about maybe 90 minutes or so, and afterward it was time for the salespersons to make their pitch about what it is that they were trying to sell us. Now, one of the things, now this isn't something I remember because that was a long time ago, and of course my memory was badly damaged with the stroke. However, in my explanation later, in my further doing research, there were two types of ownership contracts that they were offering. They had Timeshares weeks and Timeshare points. And in this process, we were told that we can go to many different properties, and it could go anywhere from resorts, to condominiums, to apartments, and even campgrounds. Now, with Timeshare weeks, we were allotted a certain week at a particular resort to go every single year on that same week every year. Now, Timeshare points is going to be based on, it's going to be a points-based system, and depending on the location and the season of your assigned resort, you will be assigned a points amount in which you can use to book at different locations depending on where and when you book. It will certainly cost you more points. Now, I am going to put links in the description below explaining all these different features, points versus weeks, and also about different type of timeshares that you want to look at. So now, with all things, there's always pros and cons. So if we examine timeshare weeks, here are the pros. The pros with timeshare weeks is that you have access to the same resort and the same week every single year if that's what you want. Now, if you want to book at a different resort at a different time because you probably want to try something else, then you would then have access to different resorts by depositing your week into a network called RCI, which I'll get back to in just a moment, so just please bear with me. Okay, so now if you want to go to a different resort, you would have to deposit your vacation week into RCI, which is a timeshare exchange network, almost like a bank of some sort for vacation ownership. But then to use a different resort at a different week, you would have to pay an exchange fee, which is usually around $200 for domestic, and I think around $500 if you want to go internationally. That's available as well. Now, the problem is that many owners were not depositing their weeks into RCI, and so the trade inventory in RCI is often very poor for other people to use, and that ends up leaving you stuck with the resort week and location that you actually own at. And usually the maintenance fees on a week's contract is more expensive. Now, I'll get into maintenance fees later on in just a moment. And your maintenance fees are going to increase if the property you own at gets damaged from, like, let's say, a natural disaster, mechanical breakdowns, upgrades, etc., or just overall upkeep. Now, timeshare weeks, according to many sales reps that I overheard, say it's not a very popular option for many customers and find that it's a broken method. Instead, the other option that wasn't offered to us at the time, but I found about later, was called Timeshares points. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Timeshares points, it's a points-based system, unlike weeks, where it's week-based. So you're not stuck with the same week every single year, but rather the higher quality resort that you book at, and depending on the season that you book at, the more points your contract is going to be worth. Now with timeshare points, you have access to more inventory without having to go to the same resort on the same week each and every year. Now, at the end of the year, when you finish paying all of your maintenance fees with your contract, your points are automatically deposited into RCI, which makes it plentiful for inventory. Now, the only drawback is that you're not guaranteed the same resort and week every year, and it is subject to availability and blackout dates. So, if you want to go to the beach every single year in Florida on the Panhandle, and you want to guarantee have the same one, weeks is the way to go. But if you don't particularly want to go to the same resort every week, points is definitely the better route to go. Now, so that's the con, is that you're not guaranteed the same week, because you might want to go to the same timeshare. You might want to go to the same resort every single year. So that might be the better option for you. Now, which option is better? Well, according to most salespeople and customers, points seems to be like the better option, because you have access to greater inventory and as well. Now, when we went on our vacation tour in West Palm Beach, Florida, we were deceptively sold weeks and were never once ever told about the points options. And then what's worse is that not also were we deceptively sold weeks, but we were not even told when our week was going to be. We knew where, it was in West Palm Beach, the facility that we toured, but we weren't given that particular week that we were assigned to. And we didn't even get time to talk about it or to review the paperwork. And then when I saw the paperwork after we were done, wow, did I quickly get buyer's remorse. Because this cost us around $38,000 to own at a whopping 19.8 APR, which I explained to the salesperson that's an absolute ripoff. I said that's a high interest credit card. And they told me, oh, that's not a problem. You can go to any bank and they'll refinance it for you. What was worse is that the week that we were given was a week in the middle of September every single year. But the problem is that at the time, my wife was working for the school system, and she could not get off during that time because school was in session during that time. So we were stuck with a week that we couldn't even go on. Had we been told it would have been the middle of September, I would have demanded a better week, such as like maybe the middle of June or the beginning of July or early August, or something where I knew she would be on vacation from school every single year. That would have been a better option for us. Now, even though we repeatedly kept telling the salespeople that we could not afford this, I made the big mistake of mentioning that we were newlyweds, and they were like, oh, you're newlyweds? You're on your honeymoon? When did y'all get married? And we told them, oh, we got married last week. And they said, oh, well, because y'all just got married, we're going to offer you a honeymooner special. And I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. The sales tactics, the high pressure sales tactics were unreal, and we quickly got buyer's remorse. When we got back from vacation, I started working at a new bank. And at that bank, there were several attorneys who were clients of mine. And I gave the contract to an attorney to have him review it to see if there was any way that we can get out of it. However, the attorney reviewed the contract and he said the contract was ironclad, and so we were absolutely stuck. And even though we were told that we could refinance this through a bank, I tried that, and I worked at a major bank, not the one where the attorneys worked at, but at a larger bank prior to that. And I gave it to one of the lenders, and he said they couldn't refinance it because they didn't have a physical house or a property that they could repossess. And even though the salespeople said that there would be no closing costs, but a review of the contract showed that there were hundreds upon hundreds of dollars in closing costs. So we had massive buyer's remorse. But even though we were stuck and we got hook, line, and sinker, I figured let me at least try to use some of this contract. And so as a result, since we had some ownership in it, I deposited the week that I knew we couldn't use in September into RCI, and we exchanged and ended up going to a resort vacation in a city called Weston, Florida, which is about 20 miles inland from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which Fort Lauderdale is about an hour and a half north of Miami. Now, when we checked in, the place was good. It looked good. Not as good as the one in West Palm Beach that we toured, but this one was pretty good. We liked it. And so when I checked in, they offered me a $200 American Express gift card and free food at their country clubs for attending another presentation, which I reluctantly went ahead and did. So we saw a tour of the place, and again, it was nice, but I much preferred the one in West Palm Beach, because in West Palm Beach, that was on an actual beach. And when we got to the presentation, these clowns wanted $70,000 for what was clearly a downgrade from what we had in West Palm Beach. So all of a sudden, I was thinking, well, 38 grand at West Palm Beach didn't sound so bad. But they could not get me to buy. And they tried to counter, saying that, oh, well, Tiger Woods plays golf at this resort sometime. As if I'm going to get within 100 feet of Tiger Woods, let alone get to tee it up with him on the golf course. And there was a golf course on the resort, but it's not like I was ever going to tee up with Tiger Woods anyway. I mean, come on, really? I mean, that's your selling point? And plus, I didn't like the fact that I had to travel to the beach about 20 to 30 miles to the beach. I would have rather have preferred to have had a beach on the resort like it was in West Palm Beach. Then, after they couldn't sell me on this particular one, and I told them how much the one in West Palm Beach cost and that it was on the beach, they quickly realized, yeah, I think he likes his other one better. So then they told me about the points system, which this was my first time hearing about it, because the shysters over in West Palm Beach never told me about the points system. So they explained the points system, and it sounded better. However, they said it was going to cost me $50,000 to upgrade from weeks to points, which I refused to pay 50 grand for a mistake that the salesman over in West Palm Beach and didn't even bother to offer to me. And I was like, I'm not about to pay 50 grand for a mistake that your clown associates made. No way, not doing that. And the salesperson was angry with me. In fact, at the end of the presentation, he refused to shake my hand and kept shaking his head, telling me that I was making a massive mistake and telling me to come back whenever you're ready. But I knew I was right for walking away. I said, oh no, I'm not getting ripped off twice. Now, I had a good friend of mine named Rob, who used to live in Baton Rouge, who he explained one time in a conversation how he had issues with the timeshare and gave us some advice on what to do. Now, he told us, he asked us if we were planning on buying a house, and I told him that in the future we were. So he advised me, he said, continue to make payments on your timeshare contract so that your credit does not get damaged, and then get into a house. Now, he said once you get into a house, then he advised me to quit making payments on that, even though he did warn me that my credit would suffer for a few years. However, the house would be the biggest and most important and expensive purchase at the time, but it might be worth getting out of your contract. Now, I tried to call the resort and the mortgage company that owned the timeshare to try to get out of the contract, but they simply would not budge. One of the ladies actually gave me the phone number to one of the scumbag salespersons who suckered me into the original timeshare, and when I called him and I ripped him, he told me I'm not a dishonest man, which I laughed and said, yeah, you are. And he was absolutely no help whatsoever. So I decided, so what I had to do was that since I had the payment set up auto through a credit card, I had to pay off that credit card, which I owed a couple of $100s on at the time. And so what I ended up doing was I canceled that credit card so they could no longer charge my mortgage payments on there. So, and then the company wanted to call, and then they wanted to talk, but I didn't budge. I was like, and they threatened to foreclose it, to which to me, I'm like, I don't care, take it back. I don't want it anyway. It's like I was suckered into it. I was scammed into it. So now I also heard other friends and family that have also had similar nightmarish situations with timeshare presentations. So if you've had similar situations, I want to hear about them in the comments below, or you can also send me an email as well. I'll take your comments any way that you wish. Now, this affected our credit severely, so this is not sound financial advice, and take it with a grain of salt. Do not take my advice on it. So I'm giving you the caution sign about what's going to happen if you don't. And so as a result, our credit went into the tank severely. And so when my car died on me and I had to get a new car, the interest rate that I had to pay to get a car was astronomically high. But thankfully, my father was able to get it rate financed through his credit union through a personal loan, which the interest rate was significantly lower, and I would pay it off a couple of years sooner, which is what I ended up doing. But not everybody has that option. Now, even though the timeshare was eventually foreclosed on and I no longer owned it or had access to it, I received a phone call from RCI to renew my membership. Now, I explained to them, they're like, well, my timeshare got foreclosed on. And they're like, we don't care. They're like, that's not our problem. They're like, you can still retain your membership to RCI, in which I had access to their inventory. And so as a result of having access to their inventory without having to pay mortgage payment and having to pay maintenance fees, we were able to book a resort on the beach in Destin, Florida, on the Florida Panhandle on Memorial Day week in the summer of 2011 for a mere $700, which to me was an absolute bargain. And I like the fact that I could simply retain my RCI membership and use their catalog to book. Now, some might wonder, well, instead of buying a timeshare, can't I just join RCI? The short answer is no. You cannot just join RCI. You have to be a timeshare owner because you have to have a timeshare week or points to be able to deposit into their network. Now, the drawback to booking through RCI is that you had to book so far in advance in order to get a decent week. So about 2 years later, after spending months trying to look for something to rent through RCI, we were able to rent a week in Destin, Florida at a resort called the Wyndham Beach Street Cottages in Destin, right on the beach, in which I have done a video review, so please check my channel out and look at it. So we booked that vacation and went there, and we went to check in. I reluctantly agreed to get free food and a $200 American Express gift card. Now, when they first asked me, I told the presenter that no, I wasn't interested in going on a tour because I already owned through RCI and I prefer to book through them without being an owner. But then he countered at me and said, oh, well, Wyndham now owns RCI. We bought RCI out. And so after some arm twisting and some high pressure sales tactics, I agreed to go ahead and go on the tour on an early morning to get the free food and a gift card, because I figure I could use that gift card to pay for some groceries or to go take my family out to eat or go to a theme park or something. I had no other major plans, so I went ahead and reluctantly went. So we took a tour of a Wyndham resort in Destin, don't quite remember the name of it. And the presenter that we spoke to, it was a nice gentleman named Dave, told us that there were two types of Wyndham ownership contracts that you could have. They had Club Wyndham Select and Club Wyndham Access. Now, I'm going to put a link in the description below that's going to give you a more detailed, thorough explanation of it. So everything I'm going to say, I'm going off of an outline. So if it's information overload and your head's about to explode from everything, I apologize. That's not my intention. That's why I'm putting a link in the description below. Plus, if you email me, I can give you this in a PDF. I can give you this information in a PDF document that I got straight off of Wyndham's website and others. So they explained to me the difference between Club Wyndham Access and Club Wyndham Select. In that, now Club Wyndham Select offers options of ownership with a Wyndham resort, which is an advantage for owners who are deeded to high demand resorts, and comes with something called ARP, Advanced Reservation Priority, meaning that you can book 10 to 13 months in advance, as opposed to other booking agencies like VRBO, RCI, Booking.com, or so many others. Okay, and so now earlier when I mentioned about the previous timeshares that were not through Wyndham, so Club Wyndham Select, you have a home resort that you get priority access at. Now it's still a points-based system, so depending on which days of the week you book it on, it's going to cost you more points. If you book on slower days, it's going to cost you less points, which means that you can save your points to be able to go on more vacations later on. But now with Club Wyndham Select, with that particular one, you have access to not just one Wyndham resort, but you have access to all the Wyndham resorts across the United States. And then you still have advanced priority booking and advanced reservation priority. So you can still book ahead of time over the public and get that through them. So we were shown the property, and so now with Club Wyndham Select, in which you have a home resort. Like in our case, we were sold a home resort in Orlando, Florida, which really confused me because we took a tour of Destin, and I had no desire to go to Orlando every single year. I would prefer to go to Destin every single year because it's right on the beach. But that's what we were sold, and I really didn't think it through, and so that's what we had. And so I was like, yikes, I don't think that was a good idea. So if you want to go to Orlando every single year, or to Destin every single year, and have advanced priority booking, then that would be the better option to go with. If you want to go to all of the Wyndham resorts in the network in the United States, definitely Access is the better way to go. And because Club Wyndham Select, you have a home resort. If that resort were to get damaged by, let's say, a natural disaster, or they had to repair the AC unit, or they had to do upgrades to it because of damages or whatever, your maintenance fees will actually go up. Whereas with Club Wyndham Select, since you have access to all the Wyndham resorts, you pay what's called a blended maintenance fee. Now, maintenance fees can either be paid annually or monthly, depending on how your contract is structured, and the maintenance fees go up every single year. Now, this is what Timeshares is not, okay? A timeshare is not a vacation house that you simply own, that you can walk into and stay whenever you want with a key at your own will. No. Instead, it's access to condos and vacation, and you have to go through the booking process that could be subject to blackout dates and availability. Now, a timeshare is nothing that will build in value over time, like a house, like owning an actual piece of real estate. It will not build, and in the future, if you ever decide that you want to sell it, you probably will not even be able to sell it for the price you paid for it. And if you will sell it, and if you do sell it, it will not be profitable, and you may even take a loss on it. Now, I ended up buying through Wyndham, and you're probably wondering, why would I purchase a timeshare after the bad experience I had in West Palm Beach? Well, we were sold on Wyndham because of the quality of our stay, as well as having access to many of these quality vacation condos before the public and at a fraction of the cost. Now, the first one we stayed at was called the Beach Street Cottages, which I've done a review on in my video, so please check it out. And the gentleman named Dave, who was our Wyndham Timeshare salesperson, he showed us, he asked us a 40 question. He said, when you go on vacation, do you have to stay all 7 days, or will you be content with just 5 days? And when he said that, I thought to myself, I think 5 days would be sufficient because I'm not used to going on vacations anyway. So then he showed me how I can save on my contract points by booking on slow days. So he showed me how I could book on a Sunday night and check out on a Friday morning, and how much more points that would save us if we were to check in on the weekend, on the weekends. And when I saw that, my eyes opened up. I'm like, wow. So he showed me how I can go on vacation twice a year if I want to by booking on slower days. And so the following year, as a result of Dave's tip, we were able to take not one but 2 vacations that year. We went to both Destin, Florida, and then we went to Fort Lauderdale, something I had never done in my life. And every Wyndham resort that we've stayed at so far, we've stayed at quite a few of them. Check out my video reviews of every one I've done. They have all been absolutely top notch. Now, at every Wyndham resort, now here's the drawback of staying at a Wyndham timeshare condo, is every single time we went, they kept offering us free foods and cash gift cards, or theme park passes, or attending an owner's meeting to show you how to maximize your timeshare contract. But in reality, this is nothing but a glorified sales pitch to get you to upgrade your contract to get more points, as well as other services. Now, they're going to tell you how Wyndham has all these new amazing bells and whistles, and how they bought out this travel company, how they're adding more locations for you to have access. However, these upgrades come at a hefty price, a very hefty price. Now, this isn't a matter of you just adding $50 to $75 to your existing mortgage payments or increasing your maintenance fees. Instead, they want you to trade in your current contract for pennies on the dollar, and the trade-in you get on these contracts is worse than what used car dealerships give you for trading in a car, and you end up paying higher maintenance fees anyway. Now, for years, I used to prostitute my vacation time to get the free gift cards and the free food, which more or less I became what's known as a tour whore. Now, here's a definition of a tour whore. A tour whore is someone who goes on timeshare presentations to get free food or restaurant gift cards or theme park cards. And these presentations usually last about 90 minutes of doing a tour of the facility, with an additional 60 to 90 minutes of high-pressure sales tactic and arm twisting. So be prepared to waste a lot of your precious vacation time that you will not get back. Now, after a while, I got tired of all the high-pressure sales tactics and realized that my vacation time with my wife and kids is far more important than being a tour board. Now, that's a phrase I did not come up with myself. I heard it from somebody. I don't know who, but whoever you are, if you coined that phrase, sorry I didn't give you credit because I don't know who you are, but if you coined the phrase, let me know in the comments below or send me an email, and I'll make sure to give you credit the next time I do the next ownership review video to give you the credit for that phrase. So now you're wondering what convinced me to become an owner after having had that previously bad experience from West Palm Beach. Well, I like the quality state of each of the Wyndham resorts that we stayed at, because once you stay at a Wyndham vacation condo, you cannot ever go back to staying at a hotel, because the difference is absolutely night and day. Now the good thing is that Dave, our Wyndham salesperson, was kind, courteous, and did not employ the usual high-pressure sales tactics that a lot of timeshare people play. And with Dave, I played hardball with him and ended up putting on my poker face to basically have him drive the cost down to where I would have felt like a fool by not getting it. So now ultimately, like I mentioned earlier, Dave sold us on Club Wyndham Access at a resort called Bonnet Creek in Orlando/Kissimmee, Florida. And I've done a review on that one. Check it out. It's a fantastic place. It is the absolute best vacation resort I have ever been to, Wyndham or non-Wyndham alike. And at the time, I was confused because why would you sell me Orlando if I hadn't toured Orlando? I toured that. So now, with Dave, I left my wallet at the condo on purpose in those lockers so that I had no way of making a down payment or setting up automatic payments. But then Dave says, oh, well, yo, no problem, Jose. You could apply for our Wyndham Rewards Visa card to make your down payment and set up your mortgage and maintenance fee payments, to which I was like, oh, you shyster. Okay, all right. So I signed up for it because every Wyndham purchase that you make on the Wyndham Rewards Visa card, you used to get Wyndham Rewards points, which you could then use to get bookings at free Wyndham resorts all across the country, as well as to get some of your maintenance fees knocked off as well. So now, which of the two Wyndham options is better? Between the two options, I would say that Club Wyndham Access is a far better option because you get access to all of the Club Wyndham properties with lower maintenance fees. Because if you get an access contract at a resort that you hadn't toured or that you don't really like, it's like you're stuck with that access contract until perpetuity. Unless if you somehow trade in that contract for another access one, because if you think that you're going to call Wyndham Owner Services and they're going to give you a different resort, you can forget about it. They're not that generous. They're not going to help you get that. And so that's going to cost you a lot of money to have to trade that contract in. So basically, you're starting all over. So unless you stayed at a particular Wyndham resort, do not get the Club Wyndham Select contract for a resort you have not stayed at, because you don't know if you're going to like it. So now when you stay at a Wyndham condo, it is hard to go back to like a hotel or any other one, because the difference is night and day. Because vacation condos are bigger, they're better, they're nicer. And one of the things that my wife and I really enjoyed about staying at a Wyndham or even ones through RCI is that most of them have a full kitchen. So you have a refrigerator and freezer, in which we used to like to go grocery shopping and stock a refrigerator and freezer. And that way we were able to cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now you're wondering, well, you're on vacation. Why would you cook on vacation? You should be going out to eat and enjoying your vacation. But I actually didn't mind. I actually enjoyed cooking on vacation with my family. I got a joy out of it. I actually enjoyed saving money more than anything else, to be honest with you. Yeah. And so, now the problem Now, what I enjoyed about Wyndham is that every Wyndham resort we ever stayed at was top notch, and every one was fantastic. And I can almost here to say now that you're almost guaranteed a good stay at a Wyndham. However, with RCI was like playing Russian roulette, because it was like there was one RCI resort that we stayed at in Pompano Beach, Florida, which is near Fort Lauderdale, which I did a review on, which was dreadful. But I've been to great ones, such as Berkshire by the Sea in Delray Beach, Florida, which I will do a future video on in the future, so please look out for that one. And so every single Wyndham I've been to has been absolutely top notch. And when we made this purchase through Wyndham, it was not under the dishonesty or high pressure sales tactics like it was in West Palm Beach. The only thing was that we were sold Club Wyndham Select at a resort that we didn't particularly ask for, but that was me not really asking questions, or maybe I wasn't paying attention, but it certainly was not the usual high pressure sales tactic. And I felt confident that we made a good choice by going with Wyndham, because we had such a pleasant experience with the first ever Wyndham that we stayed at. And I certainly like the idea of going on vacation every single year. Now, the problem with my contract, and again, it probably I wasn't paying attention, or it was said, or it was so fast, and I didn't review it properly. My wife and I didn't. The problem with the contract was that it was only good on even years. We couldn't use it on odd years, but we still had to pay mortgage and maintenance fees on it, even on the years that we could not use it. So eventually I knew I was going to want to go every single year. So now eventually in time, I upgraded my contract by trading it in to get Club Wyndham Access, which is what I should have gotten in the first place, so that I could go every single year. Now this was a few years later, and it was and I really had to put my poker face on and play hardball with the salespeople to annoy them enough to drive the price down to where, yes, we were spending more money, but I like the idea of having an access contract so that I could go on every year. We didn't have to wait every other year to go, and then, yeah. And so, but even though we were now access owners, each Wyndham we stayed at, it was the same deal every single time. Oh, come to an owner's meeting, we can show you how to maximize your contract. Glorified sales pitch to get you to buy more, and more. And eventually I did, because I sat down and they explained to me the benefit of having an access contract with more points, because eventually my kids are going to grow up and they're going to want their own room, they're going to want their own bed, and not be on a sofa sleeper like they were at certain resorts, but they're going to want their own room, as long as me and my wife. And so, and at one of these owners meetings, I had a very nice lady, but was trying to employ high pressure sales tactics, but it wasn't working with me, because I knew better, because I had been on it for a while now. She kept telling me that I didn't have enough points on my contract, that I needed to upgrade my contract by a couple of 100,000 more points. And she says that, and so I'm like, but if I'm not going to stay at a much higher resort, if I'm going to stay at this kind of a resort, why do I need extra points? She says, oh, well, you could use your points for traveling, such as airfare and car rental. So when I asked them, well, how many points does it cost to fly? Oh, I don't know. So I'm like, well, go ask somebody. So they asked around. Nobody in the entire office could tell me how much it was going to cost me. So I basically told them, well, look, if you can't explain the benefit to me, then there is no benefit to this at all. So I pretty much said, forget it. So when I got back home from vacation, I actually called Wyndham Owner Services, and I asked them specifically to let me know how many points would it cost me to rent a car, how many points would it cost to fly. And the sales rep on the phone had no choice but to admit that it is simply not worth using your points to travel, because the points is going to cost so many points that you may not have enough left over from your booking to use it for car rental, airfare, anything like that. That is simply not worth it. And so I'm like, well, good. I'm glad I stuck to my guns and didn't upgrade at that particular time. So yeah, so eventually when I did upgrade to Access a couple of years later in Daytona Beach, Florida, I was able to annoy the salespeople enough to drive the price down to where it was a little more affordable, and I felt better about it, even though I hated that I wasted about 90 minutes of my vacation time that I could have spent with my kids at the beach having a good time. Good thing my mother was with us and she spent time with them at the beach. And when we got back, they were like, man, like, where have y'all been? I was like, I know, sorry kids. So yeah, so now that we have access to it every single year, and now I have an option. In fact, but actually this past year, my wife, because of me having a stroke and me being disabled and not having the flexibility to move around like I used to, my wife really needed a vacation. She was so stressed out taking care of me, taking care of the kids, taking on duties that I used to do, but now she had to assume those roles and duties because of my illness. So she was able to go to Tennessee with the kids and with another friend of her and with another couple that she's good friends with and their child, and they were able to go. And because of our contract, they were able to go to Tennessee for about a week, and they had a great time. I wish I could have gone with them, but hey, life is life, so I couldn't. But it's good to have that. But it's good to have that option to be able to go in the future as well. Now, I do have to warn you, if you've never been on a timeshare presentation, some timeshare salespersons can be vicious and just downright cutthroat and are worse than used car salesmen. They will tell you that you absolutely need to be a timeshare owner. They will tell you all the pros, but none of the cons. But then later, I learned some secrets from my friend Rob, the same one who told me about how to get out of my timeshare contract, which again, take that advice with a grain of salt, okay? It's not sound financial advice. Your credit will take a massive hit, and it will probably cost you a lot more, so please err on the side of caution before you do that. I don't recommend you do that. It's not for everybody. So he told me some ways in which you can get in which to get a timeshare. Now, for legal reasons, I won't explain what Rob told me. However, I will share them with you. If you email me, I will send you a PDF document with everything I explained about the difference between RCI Points versus RCI Weeks and Club Wyndham Access versus Club Wyndham Select. I will have all that in a single PDF document, which all you have to do is request that document in an email, and it's at absolutely no cost. You don't have to purchase anything. You don't have to join a membership. You don't have to do anything in order to receive that document at no cost. This is my way of saying thanks to you for watching this video. All I ask is please, if you haven't done already, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button at the bottom, and please share this video with everyone you know on social media, email, text. However, anyone that's had a bad experience with a timeshare presentation or has been a timeshare owner before or wants to know what timeshares are about, and they basically want the gist or the simplistics of a timeshare. If you think this video is simplistic, I don't think that's probably information overload. So please share with as many people as possible, because I really want this video to go viral. Because I want this entire channel to go viral so that I can become a full-time YouTuber and to be able to have a source of income in which I can provide for my family. Because I really enjoy making videos like this for you, the audience. want to continue to do that. And I want to continue to do that. And I need your help in order to get that done. Yeah, so if you want the gist on that, just please go ahead and send me that email. Now, if you work for Wyndham or if you work for a timeshare company, and I want to know your opinion. Am I being too harsh on timeshare salespeople? Am I being too harsh on Wyndham in general? However, if you're fearful that Wyndham is going to see your comment and they're going to retaliate and you're going to lose your job, send me an email. And just like John Walsh offered tipsters on America's Most Wanted, you can remain anonymous. Okay? I value your opinion and I value your privacy even more. And you will remain anonymous. Okay? So that's my overall presentation on timeshares, or the gist of them, and why we became Wyndham Vacation Timeshare owners ourselves. So my overall rating on what our experience has been like being a timeshare owner is, drum roll please, 5 out of 5 stars. We absolutely love it. We love it. And I don't regret buying it at all because it was under much better circumstances. I mean, I made some mistakes. It wasn't perfect as I admitted, but that's why I'm making this video, so that if you ever go on a Wyndham timeshare presentation, that you'll better understand the difference between Club Wyndham Access and Club Wyndham Select, and which one is going to be a better option for you. Now, if it's information overload, again, I'm sorry. I'm trying to put it together. Please bear with me. I had a brain injury, as I explained earlier. But please rewatch this video. Now, if there's anything I said that doesn't make sense, hey, let me know in the comments below, or send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have about it, as well as sharing that document, with you. Now, in a gist, okay, timeshare ownership is not for everyone. You have to truly understand what you're doing. But many people get suckered into timeshares because they don't know anything about them. Like how my wife and I knew nothing about them back when we were on our honeymoon after we got married and had our honeymoon in West Palm Beach. We knew nothing about it. And see, a lot of timeshare salespeople, especially those not with Wyndham, and even some of them with Wyndham, their primary objective is to sell you into a contract, whether you could afford it or not, whether you want it or not. Their objective is just to make their commission or to meet their monthly quota, and they're gonna try to get you into it no matter what, no matter if you can't afford it, or no matter if it's gonna cause you financial distress afterward. I'm not against owning a timeshare because obviously I own one and I love mine. But you really have to know what you're getting yourself into. And I hope this video was informative for you, that you could watch it repeatedly. Which of course I want you to watch it repeatedly, because the more you watch it, the more points I get from a monetization, and the more I could potentially get closer to becoming a full-time YouTuber. But please watch this video multiple times if you have to. If there's something I said that didn't make sense because I was incoherent, or I came across like a bumbling buffoon because of my brain injury, by all means, send me an email, leave a comment in the comments below, and I'll be glad to answer those questions for you. And let me know about any experiences that you have with timeshares, or if you think I completely lost my mind for becoming an owner after the experience I had. Hey, if that's your opinion, it's perfectly fine. You're entitled to it. You can say that. It won't hurt my feelings. It won't hurt my feelings. Believe me, I've been through enough. So by all means. Now, in addition to emailing me, if you look in the description below, my email will be there. It's going to be the jdsreview@gmail.com. You can also follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter/X, Instagram, Facebook, and obviously you're on YouTube. So all the links are going to be in the description below. So go ahead and check them out. Plus I have links in the description below to explain the difference between timeshare points and timeshare weeks, Club Wyndham Access versus Club Wyndham Select, as well as other information on timeshares that I know you will certainly find interesting on there. But thank you so much for sticking through and watching this entire video if you have. And if you watch the ads all the way through, thank you, because that helps my points. That helps me get more monetization, so I appreciate that. Now, if you have YouTube Premium like I do and you skip the ads, that's perfectly fine too. No harm, no problems. Every time that you watch my videos, even if it's on YouTube Premium, even if you skip all the ads, I still get something. I still get credit for every time you watch my video, whether you click on the ad or not. If you watch the ads, hey, fantastic. I'm not telling you to do it, otherwise I'll be a hypocrite, because when I get the option to skip an ad on YouTube Premium, you better believe I hit that skip button. Unless it's a channel that I really like, and then I want to support that channel, and then I go ahead and support them as well. But thank you so very much for sticking through this entire presentation. I really appreciate you doing that. Please watch this video several times over and share, and please subscribe. Thank you so much, and I'll see you later. Thank you. Bye.